This is a special edition of WeatherScope with the latest on the coastal storm threatening New England.
It's been an amazing winter in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, and it continues as we roll out the third week of spring, and we roll out a second snowstorm in 3 days. The first one now departing the Northeast, the second one moving in, and we're going to be bringing snow into Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia for the middle of the week. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Seidel here in Atlanta in the Forecast Center. Let's get you updated right now on what happened earlier today in New England, in the Boston area, the morning commute. What's coming in? Well, we still have our dip in the jet stream like this coming up the eastern seaboard. There's one storm departing, but as that moves out with this jet stream continuing, we have another very strong piece of wind energy and cold air aloft. Here's another disturbance coming down the pike. These will combine to form a surface low. Actually, the low is formed, but it will combine to strengthen the surface low off the Delmarva Peninsula tomorrow afternoon. That will throw more moisture back into cold air, and that means additional snowfall. And in some areas where you didn't get it yesterday or this morning, you're going to get it, like Baltimore, Washington, and Philadelphia. The snows from storm number 1 still lingering across Maine from Portland all the way up to Caribou and Holton. And like I said, a few snowflakes around Worcester, up towards Burlington and Montpelier. You'll get a few wet snowflakes tonight. No big deal. The accumulating snows will hold off for about another 24 hours. We're getting some reports of virga. That means it's precipitating out of the clouds, but it's not reaching the ground. But eventually, between the fact that the air will be rising and cooling and the precipitation will be evaporating and cooling, kind of a 1-2 punch, the atmosphere will cool down. Temperature right now in Baltimore at 45 degrees. So it's going to rain for several hours once it starts raining. Then later on tonight and certainly early tomorrow morning, we'll see the changeover. Back in West Virginia, we're getting some heavier snow reports around Beckley and Wheeling, and that's just an indication of that lift in the atmosphere we showed you with that jet stream energy coming in from the southwest. Rain through a good deal of the Carolinas. You get up into western North Carolina, higher elevations, we've got snowfall coming down. If you're traveling across the Smokies, 441 is closed now because of the snow coming down tonight and tomorrow morning. There's your snowfall forecast, pretty healthy. Remember, it's April, and it doesn't often snow and accumulate in April in Baltimore and Washington. And tonight, our very own Jim Cantori is standing by live in Baltimore and Charm City. Jim, I'm from Maryland. I can't remember the last time we had accumulating snow during the month of April.
Or at least over 2 inches here in Baltimore. And then, you know, we're talking to guys here with 20, 30 years worth of weather records, and you know how some of these folks are with their weather records. I mean, they just got all this stuff memorized. And they can't remember a time when there was over 2 inches. So, I mean, we may be into some snowfall records here. Not to mention, Mike, you were mentioning in Boston how the city got 3 inches, north and west of Boston 6, 7 inches in some cases. We're looking for that same kind of deal here in Baltimore. I mean, if you go outside the Beltway, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles, you know, you get up quite a few hundred feet in elevation, and that's going to be the deal with this storm. That's why the winter storm warnings are there, and that's why tomorrow morning, if we get into a period where the snowfall rates are exceeding 1.5 inches to even 2 inches an hour, that is going to affect the rush hour, regardless of the fact that we have a strong sun this time of the year warming the ground.
That's a very good point, Jim. In Baltimore, if you go from the Inner Harbor out towards Reisterstown Road, or if you go up the JFX Interstate 83 and get outside the Beltway, you get an incredible rise, and that is certainly going to increase the accumulations. Another thing, Jim, we want to talk about is the effect the snow and the snow we had today is having on major sporting events. Again, another Orioles game tomorrow scheduled in the Yard, but will they play baseball in Baltimore?
I think they will. I was talking to somebody about the drainage in Baltimore, and of course, you know, when this thing moves through, the sun comes out, and then it melts some of the precipitation that fell, and obviously the field's going to be a little wet. But this is a big series. I mean, the Baltimore fans are absolutely going crazy around here. They're 5-1 to start off with, and they're hosting the Indians, who's a great team. You know, they're a great team, so they're looking forward to playing baseball tomorrow night at Camden Yards. And it's not only the Orioles, but you got the Yankees hosting Kansas City. Boston's got Minnesota in town, so really the weather continues to impact the 1996 baseball season.
Okay, Jim, thanks for that weather and sports update. Jim Cantori, live from Charm City in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. We'll be checking back with Jim throughout this evening, and it should start raining there in the next hour or so. Meanwhile, we want to certainly update you on the rest of the weather. There has been some real bona fide spring weather, some record highs in the west, and we want to get your forecast through the weekend. We check in now with Dan Atkinson.
And thank you, Mike. One of the things has been the double low that's going to be connecting with that low-pressure center as it moves across the North Carolina area tonight, and by tomorrow morning should be right along the coast of North Carolina. And that low-pressure center will begin to sweep in a lot of moisture from the Atlantic, And as it does, you're going to see the snow spread back into the northeast that is now moving out. The low pressure area is presently over North Georgia. There's a stationary front out in the west and high pressure over the Great Basin, only spotty precipitation in the western half of the country. And you can see the temperatures around the nation now. 62 degrees in Atlanta, 42 in New York City, 30 now in Chicago, 61 degrees in Denver. And here's how those temperatures, the highs today at least, were departures from normal. Well above normal in the west, 20 degrees above normal.
Back for more fire ant storm. It's exiting. Another one is coming now up the pike. Some pretty good snows around Beckley, from Elkins and Beckley into the higher elevations of southwest Virginia. And that whole system will be moving northeast into New England and the mid-Atlantic tonight and tomorrow. But eventually tomorrow afternoon we'll get temperatures above 40 in Washington and Baltimore. So all that snow will be turning to slush and melting. But watch out tomorrow night and Wednesday in Boston, Portland, and Bangor again, where it's still snowing from the first storm. There's your forecast in Boston. But I want you to look at the last 2 days of these panels because there is certainly some good weather coming in. Look at New York City. Snow on Wednesday, 71 on Friday. Pneumonia weather in the Big Apple. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, much the same forecast, a rapid recovery. April weather really charges in for the weekend with temperatures in the mid-70s on Friday afternoon. And a beautiful weekend to see what's left of the cherry blossoms on the Mall in Washington. Coming up, Dan Atkinson has the lowdown. Here is going to spark more storminess off the coast. The Gulf Stream is there, and the result will be more heavy, wet snowfall for the mid-Atlantic, eventually into the northeast. Right now, still some leftover snow in Portland, Bangor, and Augusta. That's pulling away. But as we move south, we'll find that snow is beginning to fall now through the mountains of West Virginia. Also in southwestern Virginia, we're getting some snow. Snow at Beckley, Bluefield, Elkins, earlier moderate around Beckley. Right now it's just snowing lightly. This is rain around Richmond over towards the Norfolk, Virginia beach area. And eventually some of this precipitation you're seeing on radar will reach the ground. In fact, right now we're getting our first reports of some light rain around Dulles Airport, north and west of Washington as you go out towards Fairfax County. 45 degrees though, so it's going to be a few hours before we see the temperatures cool down and the rain changing over to snow. It is snowing in the mountains of western North Carolina, already up to a half a foot around Mount Mitchell. And if you're traveling through the Smokies on 441, it's closed tonight and will likely be closed for a good deal of tomorrow until they get the plows out and the snow starts to taper off. What you're seeing east of the Appalachians is all rain here. Charlotte, Greensville, over towards the Triad and up towards the Richmond area. How much snowfall? Here's the forecast from the Weather Channel through dinner time tomorrow. The territory in Baltimore, a stone's throw from Camden Yards where they're going to try to play baseball tomorrow. Jim's also attracted some local weather watchers to give their perspective on what's in store for Baltimore. Jim?
Yeah, we'll talk to them in just a second here. But, Mike, since we talked to you last, we've had a couple of drops of rain come on down. I heard you mention the rain at Dulles. And like you said, it will be several hours before we can get the dynamics of the atmosphere working, and that will cool down the layer enough so we will go from rain to snow. And tomorrow morning we do anticipate some silver dollar-sized type snowflakes to roll through Baltimore. And that could very well affect the commute. That's going to be the big issue here in town. How much snow and what type of rate will it come down per hour to affect the rush hour tomorrow morning? And of course, if it comes down at 1, 2, maybe even more than that inches an hour, you're going to have some problems on the roadways. Well, with us, joining us here this evening, we have a gentleman whose name is Greg Schoentuck.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Jim. You got it right.
And he's a 26-year resident of Baltimore. And what do you think about the aspects of some snow in the forecast?
I think I speak for a lot of residents here in Baltimore, and they're just looking at me going, it's the same old thing that trough sets up, and it's the same weather pattern. It's been like this since, I'd say, about October, and it just seems like it's not going to get any better.
So you hoping for spring or what?
Oh, God, I can't tell you, Jim. I'm waiting for that warm weather to come, go to the Oriole game, and watch that 80-degree temperature.
When's the last time you remember accumulating snow in Baltimore in April, in the month of April?
It's been quite a while, I think, since the Colts left. That was maybe late March. That's probably the latest it's been, and it figures it would happen this year. We might get snowed out on Tuesday. Can you believe it?
All right, man. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Take it easy. Yeah, listen, folks, that's the story here in Baltimore. We got the big series coming up with the Cleveland Indians. We got a potential problem tomorrow morning with the rush hour, and folks are excited, I guess, kind of, about the snow tonight, and definitely anticipating some problems tomorrow morning. So we'll get back to you with more details coming up.
Jim, I heard Craig mention troughs of low pressure. He sounds like he could work here at the Weather Channel. Did you hear me, Jim? Okay, Jim obviously can't hear me. That's Jim Cantore reporting live from the Baltimore Inner Harbor and Charm City. And again, rain is on the way. Eventually will change.
Frontal systems in the west not really producing much in the way of precipitation other than in Missouri. They have at Grandview and Columbia, Missouri, some light rain reported during the past hour. And taking a look at what's in store for the temperature.
Winds could gust as high as 50 miles an hour, but sustained winds in excess of 39 miles an hour. That's why the gale warnings continue. Let's look back, then we'll look at what's going on currently. And as far as snowfall reaching the ground, but it's evaporating on the way down, that is helping to cool the mid and lower levels of the atmosphere. Meanwhile, rain moving up towards Richmond. It's raining into North Carolina around Raleigh, Durham, and Greensboro. Snowing back through the mountains of West Virginia. Beckley, Elkins, and Bluefield all reporting some light snow over the past several hours. Rain through the Carolinas till you get into western North Carolina along the Blue Ridge Parkway. That's where it's snowing, and we expect some pretty good snows here. Already several inches on the ground of the higher spots meaning Mount Mitchell, Grandfather Mountain. And Highway 441 through the Smokies has been closed for the rest of tonight because of the snow. They're just going to wait for it to stop snowing tomorrow and then clear off the highways. As far as the rest of the weather, it's pretty nice. But where we have the big dip in the jet stream, that's where the cold air is sweeping on in, and that's where it's going to stay pretty chilly and subpar for this time of the year, post-Easter weather, for the next couple of days. But eventually, as we take the jet stream and shove it back into the Canadian Maritimes and the Great Lake areas this weekend, we'll see the warm air pull in so that by Friday, look at the change after the snow.